Awesome, guys. Welcome again to Project Offbeat podcast. Good evening, everyone. No, we're filming this at around mid-April. No, and Matt, thank God. No, tomorrow is a holiday. Makakapahinga din sa paano, right? But you know what, Matt? Today is such an exciting episode within us, no, because bro, I think it's the first time that we're guesting two guests in one go. And not just
Yeah.
any two guests to pare. It's a I would say they're like a power couple, no, power partner, no.
Literally.
Literally. Oh, bakit, 'di ba? Napakaraming hints dun sa term na 'yon, no. But literally a power couple, no. Anyways, Matt, you know what? Uh I think I met our guest back in Ateneo. Siguro 2019, no. First time
Tagal
I
na.
met him, I remember it was in UP. In UP,
Oo.
pumunta kami sa area 2. You know what? Where it was the day where I would meet my kasi dito sa Ateneo, bro. I was a local parang guide before, a local student guide before. And several
Ano, tour
foreigners are
guide?
coming. Parang tour guide. You could say that. You could say that, di ba?
Okay,
And
okay.
several foreigners are coming into Ateneo to study there for maybe a half semester or full semester.
Sure, yeah.
And this guy came about, no, he's a exchange student then, no. And Matt, pare, yung first impression ko, fuck, ang laki niya. Like, damn. Like, here's this guy, nakasando lang, pare, no. And I think this has been like the biggest built guy that I've ever seen in my life, no. So nakakatawa, right? And we are bringing him to the show today, and of course his wonderful partner, no. So siguro para sa mga ka-offbeat guests natin, the offbeaten career that we'll be talking about today is that of a personal trainer, no. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng isang personal trainer, right? Perhaps ang alam natin sa kanila, they're the ones who trains us to achieve our goals, 'di ba? Our body goals, or mga taong nagpo-push sa atin sa gym, no? Kung medyo ayaw na talaga natin, 'di ba? Sinisigawan tayo, right? Challenging us to go the extra mile, right? So this will be the career that we will be doing today. Matt, could you give some details about our guest, no? The power couple guest that we will be having today.
Well, as you said, nga, no, this is the first time that the Project Offbeat podcast is having two guests, and and it just so happens that they're partners also. I'll be introducing the first guest. No, so our first guest today is a team manager and elite trainer in Unreal Personal Training, a training studio based in Singapore, which holds group workouts, personal training, and weight management services. He is also a previous Philippine National Rugby player for the
Uy.
Philippine Volcanoes, having won back-to-back titles in the Asian Rugby Championship back in 2019.
Awesome. Yung second guest naman natin, Matt, Unreal personal trainer rin. So meron
Mm.
na tayong hint kung saan sila nagkita, no? I don't know. Maybe I'm going ahead of myself, right? But and she is a competitive bodybuilder as well, no? Having bagged
Mm.
multiple first and second place awards in Muscle Contest Philippines noong
Wow,
2022
okay.
and NPC Singapore Showdown, no? Bodybuilding contest, diba? So this is a power couple, everyone. And without further ado, I really want to bring them onto the show in the Project Offbeat podcast. Hello, everyone. Good evening, Harvey Mercado and Kat Enriquez. Kamusta kayo, mga kababayan? Yun.
Wow, thank you so much for the
Yun.
introduction. Yun, yun,
Yeah,
yun.
grabe. Sobrang nakakaano yun.
Yun naman. Right? So guys, it's really a pleasure to really have the first couple or basically the first partners that we would be having in Project Offbeat. Sorry, can you talk to us about where you are right now lang and what you've been doing in the past few days?
Past few days, right?
Past few days,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you so much. Again, once again, thank you so much, Matt and Lance as well. We are honored to be here. To be fair, so I mean, just to give you a snippet of what we've been doing for the past few days. So recently, our gym, the gym itself, Unreal, that I manage, and also work together with Kat. We recently just moved places. So we're
Good.
down in Cecil Street. So if anyone is in Singapore, if you're hearing this, yeah, we're
Yeah.
in Cecil Street right now. Yeah, so it's a great place. It's ground floor and B1. So if you're walking by the side of the road, it's like right up there.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's been It's been quite a couple of weeks. Actually, it's our first month, I
Yeah,
think.
it's your first month.
First month that we actually moved to a new place. So obviously with move, it's crazy. So you can
Super.
imagine moving not just your whole entire gym equipment, and we
Mhm.
have over 70 equipment, yeah. And then obviously it's talking
That was
about,
a fun experience.
yeah, it's a fun experience, right? Yeah. Thinking about you thought that all these personal trainers are great, and when it comes to moving the equipment, because we all just work out, right? No,
Right.
it's different when it comes to working. Yeah. So that's the past few days have been like busy, just trying to stabilize everything else, getting in touch with the clients, making sure that we remove any teething issues as well
Yeah.
with the new space. But yeah, there we go. Today we both started around 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, 6:30 a.m.
and we just ended
Aga
work.
naman.
7:30
Ang aga
p.m.
naman.
I know.
Aga nyo naman nagigising, no?
There,
That's
Yeah, that's the life.
that's the life.
that's the
Mhm.
life. Awesome, awesome. You know what, Harvey and Kat, you know what, medyo chismosa yung mga audience namin, no? But let's get it over with. How did you guys meet, right? And how did it develop into this wonderful power couple that we are seeing today?
Oh my god.
So
So, should I tell my side or your side?
Oh, may
we're
ganun pa. May ganun pa tayo, right?
in a
Oh,
long
Okay.
version.
kasi, so, yung boss namin, or also Harvey's good friend and my friend, Ben, so, he reached out to me first and invited me to work out at their gym. So we have another membership gym called Brick House.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of Unreal at that time yet. And at the same time as well, when I moved here to Singapore, I wasn't even a personal trainer. I was actually a teacher when I first moved here. So I made a big shift
Ooh.
there. But we'll get to that later. So
Sure, sure.
I got invited, and then um after that, so I met Ben, and then pinakilala din niya si Harvey. Tapos parang ako tinitignan ko siya, tapos sabi ko,
Yes.
same din, parang ko, wow, grabe ang laki ng braso niya.
Yes. Look at that. Look at that,
Damn,
guys. Look at that.
Iniisip ko na parang kasing laki siya ng ulo ko. So
Grabe.
and then
Yeah.
from there, things like we started to talk na parang, uy, Pilipino ka pa. And, Harvey being Harvey, he grew up in Singapore. So, parang, kinakausap ko siya ng Tagalog. Tapos parang na-excite kasi ako kasi finally makakapag-Tagalog na ako. Tapos he did this parang, oh, marunong naman ako.
Marunong ako
marunong ako
mag-Tagalog.
mag-Tagalog. Tapos parang ako,
It's all behind the mask.
and then we just started to talk about gym equipment, funnily, and bodybuilding.
Yeah. There you go.
Grabe. What a small world, no? Because I mean, nagkita kayo, same gym. I mean, no, maraming Filipinos sa Singapore, right? But who would have thought you would see your own kababayan, training people as well, right? So, could it be fate? I don't know. Could be fate,
I mean,
right?
is it possible to miss him? Parang super, kasi, makita mo na agad eh.
Yan naman lagi ang impression kay Harvs, right? Yung arms niya talaga grabe. Di ko alam kung ano size ng t-shirt mo, bro, no?
That's why we're singlets.
Kaya nga po
Puro
Kaya
sando lang.
Sige, earlier, Harvs and Kat, I think Kat touched on having a unique background, no? Which is, I think, from my research then, I think, Kat, no? You were a preschool and a SPED teacher then, no?
Yes, I was.
Can you talk to us about, that experience and how it led you here? Because, this episode or this show is really about people moving off beaten tracks, no? And from a teacher, you became like a personal trainer and a competitive bodybuilder. Paano nangyari yun, right? How did it start?
Well, basically before, I was still in the Philippines. So, nag-gym lang ako sa Anytime Fitness. It just opened. And at that time, talagang, I didn't know what I was doing. This was back in 2015, 2016. But I was always active. I was heavily influenced also by my dad and my brothers. So, I was always working out, but not like seriously. Parang, papasok lang ako sa gym, sige, ganyan lang. But I didn't know what I was doing. And then I met a couple there who were also bodybuilders, and I found like, wow, they're so cool. So parang I took my training more seriously, but at the same time I was still teaching. And then I did my own research. I started to learn more, and then I also started to teach my friends about it because I shared my journey with them, And then they're asking me like tips, like on nutrition and like lifting. So I told them like nutrition, hindi ko masyadong gamay. But when it
Yeah.
comes to training, I was telling them what I knew at that time, being an amateur lifter myself. So after that, it just like kept going and going until finally, I was actually supposed to join a bodybuilding show before I moved to Singapore. Pero ayun, parang sabi ko, sige, priority ko muna career ko. Then I jumped here. But still, I was still on the same cycle. So preschool, but then after work, talagang mag-gym talaga ako, walang mintis. Even my co-teachers were asking me both in Philippines and Singapore na how do I do it, na I'm at work by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. Tapos mag-gym pa ako after, or sometimes if my shift is 9 a.m., I wake up by 5
Grabe.
or 4 a.m. basta makapag-gym ako. Talagang priority ko
Right.
siya. And then, it was a big adjustment kasi people were always looking at what I eat. So, lagi akong chicken breast, rice,
Oh, come on. Really? Breast lang?
oo, breast, and
Damn.
sometimes I would mix it up with chicken legs.
Protein.
Oo, talagang, tapos sabi nila, how do you do it? Tapos sabi ko, talagang gusto ko talaga siya. I really like the lifestyle. And then come here in Singapore, I finally decided na parang, okay, sige, I'll take the jump na. I'll really compete this time.
Grabe.
And then I found myself that as I got into bodybuilding more, I started to be more aware about like proper training, proper nutrition. And at this, but I did love teaching still at the same time. So parang I was already jumping in between both worlds.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think there was just like this moment wherein I preferred to be at the gym teaching people rather than just in the corners of the classroom.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's still teaching, but it's just a different audience. And I still love the kids. I still love, that aspect of educating people, but it's just like a different audience na lang talaga. Because I found myself na parang it was always at the back of my mind wherein like I really like learning about anatomy and different
Oh,
things about food. Surprisingly, like it really helps with personal training. And then parang sabi ko, sige, I'll take this leap. And of all places, I did it like in a foreign country pa. Tapos parang ako nagdadasal na talaga ako, parang, Lord, shit, parang please lang.
Lord, bigyan mo ako ng kababayan, no? Bigyan mo ako
Bigyan
ng
mo ako
fellow kababayan.
yung malaking braso na
Ew.
nakasandal.
They,
Grabe. Grabe. Herb, sorry, earlier, di ba, Kat was mentioning, parang anatomy, no, you have to know about a lot about the human body. Ganun ka talagang isang parang personal trainer, no? Because I think that's something that I don't know personally. No, when it comes to training people, do you have to have that technical know-how, no?
yes,
To train people.
yeah. I mean, it helps a lot with understanding them and like how your clients actually move.
Kami
A
din,
lot
bro.
of it is remember. So most machines, um, most conventional machines, not the ones that are unreal, but most conventional machines are obviously catered towards the general population. But you have to understand, we're us humans. We're never born symmetrical.
Mm.
We're asymmetrical. We have
Yeah.
weaknesses. Our muscles that not just say not weak, of course, like because weak is relative, right? But we have muscles that are unstabilized or have not been stabilized before. Whether or not you carry a
Shit.
handbag, that actually creates
Mm.
sort
And
of like a
balance.
unbalance with imbalances that occur in the body. So a lot of times you're working with different individuals, but how you actually manage their posture in order to create stability and therefore maximize output
Mm.
Yeah.
according to your goals, then therefore you win.
Yeah.
So, and the client wins, of course. So that's the whole understanding of why you need to understand anatomy from that standpoint, but
Mhm.
also not just your own, but even more
More
so
so
others, and how you can actually manipulate into the best position for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I kind of want a personal trainer now.
There you go. There you go. See what I mean? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's that all understanding,
Mm.
and I believe very strongly like where you start actually really matters.
Matters.
Mm. Kay Harvey naman, I guess I want to get to your career story naman rin.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Lance told me that you were part of the yung Philippine rugby team nga before.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that experience and how it led you kind of to this path rin?
Sure, sure. Yeah, no worries at all. So kind of like very similar to what Kat was before. She obviously was a competitive athlete, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she, I know that.
Je-
Yeah, she actually represented Philippines in the cheerleading.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
Ah, way,
really?
wow.
Yeah. So
Oh,
mine's just a
nice.
ninja.
Okay.
She's in worlds. Pero like
Galing.
for my case, so I started. I've always been active ever since I was younger, and obviously because I was a fatter younger kid. That the only sport that I could basically play and be useful was rugby, right? I mean, I'm not that tall, so obviously
Oh,
basketball
right.
wasn't
Okay.
wasn't my dream. My dad tried to force me, but rugby was the sport that I enjoyed because it was like body contact, and like obviously it's like physical as well. So I love that. So I started in rugby, and then obviously I have. So when I was born, so just to give you a snippet with the audience as well, in case they're wondering, right? Like I was born and raised in a Filipino setting. Both my mom and dad,
Mm,
are born and raised in Philippines, and they
yeah.
basically migrated to Singapore in the 80s. I grew up here in Singapore, but I became more aware about my identity as I grew up. Because here in Singapore there are not that many Filipinos, especially to the schools that I went to. So every time I saw a
Mhm.
Filipino, I'll be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like adobo, right? And they're like, "Yeah." We connected that well. Like like for example, oh yeah, what did your mom use this time to beat you? Like, oh, is it a slipper? Is it a hanger? Is it a la mesa? So those are the few things that I connected with, and then obviously towards the end when I grew up, again, rugby isn't a famous or a popular sport in Philippines.
Mm.
So even more so.
Is
So
it
when I
is it popular in in Singapore?
It's quite
It's quite
popular. I mean,
popular.
yeah, it's quite popular because obviously Singapore is a Commonwealth country. Um,
Oh, right.
you've got like a rich rugby history here. But in Philippines, not so. So that's one. So I grew up playing, and then I decided because I've always wanted to give back, or rather be in touch with my heritage. And then when I got to know about the Philippines having a national team, that's when in 2014 I went to play for the junior Volcanoes, which is the under 19. And then from then on, it just went on. So again, like I said, I've always been in touch with the gym, but again, never specifically towards like body composition. But like rugby has always been where I was. And then from rugby, obviously, so I got into personal training not so much because of rugby, but that was how it started, that foundation. But I must say, bodybuilding actually preserved my career in rugby. And I say this a lot of
Ooh.
times
Mm.
because if rugby is a physical sport, I got to put it that way. If the
Yeah.
audience, any of you are wondering, you could watch videos on YouTube. You see guys bleeding
Oh
and
my
still
God.
playing on.
Oh.
She knows, she's been to a rugby
Yeah,
game.
he
She's
took me
like,
to a rugby game. Sobrang na-shock talaga ako na talaga mga tao. Tapos parang ko, pwede ba yun? Tapos sabi niya, oo.
from then on, I knew of the foundation that I had to basically be built physically, and also strength wise. So I started, I have always enjoyed going to the gym, but I never really understood about, like, people can go to the gym and like, okay, let's do a bench press. But I started looking at like, okay, if I built my bench press really, really strong, there's always going to be something that, is going to be weak or rather unstabilized because you're paying attention more to your shoulders, your chest, and everything else. But then you look at the back muscles and you go, okay, we haven't really touched this much. And
Mhm.
exactly, that's what it is. That's what you hear about. Again, rugby players, very common shoulder injury, ACL
Yeah.
injury,
Mm.
ankle injury, quad injury, so many times. And I started to think about like, how can I bulletproof myself as much as possible, and therefore,
Mhm.
Sheesh. Yeah.
yeah, and that's how I knew about bodybuilding, because I went to go, okay, I need to build my, like, say for example, I need to build more an external rotation to allow stabilizers in your shoulder. So I
Grabe.
thought about, okay, instead of just doing simply presses all the time, I look at lateral raises that would actually build the whole, the middle deltoid. I look at external rotation to build your rear delts as well. And then I looked at, okay, if my quads are really strong, that means I'm not paying attention to my hamstrings, for example, at the back of your leg. And therefore, if you take a look at it and like, okay, I need to build more hamstrings. So therefore, body that became my so-called obsession, because I went to go, these are the body parts I haven't paid attention to.
Yeah.
Let me tick the boxes. And that's why I got
Mm.
into, like, the more I
Galing.
got into that, the more
Yeah.
interested I became in anatomy, the more interested I became in bodybuilding as well. But that so-called became a way that I actually preserved health wise, physical wise in terms of my rugby career. Yeah.
That's
Galing.
amazing.
Yeah,
It
no,
sounds like a
parang
video game, no? Where you
It
upgrade.
is.
Uy,
Yeah.
upgrade ko yung...
There you go. Yeah,
Oo.
yeah, yeah.
parang di na talaga tao to si Herbs eh, no? Parang di talaga tao to. Si Herbs parang di na tao eh, di ba? Parang really, I
I
really
mean,
need to
you
upskill,
know,
and bulk up
like
my.
as much as rugby is physical, it's also sometimes like like you also want to get like a physical, like a mental edge over your opponent, right? And the
Yeah.
tighter the jersey feels, like
Oh
you
shit.
feel that "Yeah, you're right, I got this game." So it also became like a vanity thing. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it out loud, like I don't
Yeah,
care. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
ooh, like sometimes when I wear the jersey, I was like, ooh, okay, the sleeves are a bit loose. Okay, so I say like, okay, by the end of this
Mm.
year, I'm gonna make sure it's tight. So there
Mm.
you go.
Grabe,
Oh
no?
my God.
And
Speaking of
yeah,
sleeves, side kwento lang ako. So recently we went back to the Philippines for a wedding.
Oh yeah,
Tapos I had to find a barong for him. So I had to measure his arms. And
Oh,
then
wow.
measure ko, it was like 22?
I think so. Yeah.
22 inches. So parang,
22.
tapos kausap ko yung
Yeah.
parang yung dressmaker. Tapos sabi niya, ha? 22? Sabi ko, hindi, yung braso. Sabi niya, hindi nga. Sabi ko, oo nga, 22 talaga, hindi ako nagbibiro.
That's
Oh
why
my
it's hard to
god.
buy. Is
It's
there
Yeah.
a
so funny.
sleeveless barong? I'll
No.
wear it.
Baka made to order lagi yung kay Harvey, no?
Oh,
Lagi
Oo nga,
made to
no?
order yung mga damit mo pag
which
ganun.
which which brand do we settle with? One.
Yeah, Juan, something Juan.
They measured
Yeah,
us.
no? I like the term, Matt. Sinabi niya settle na lang, no? So medyo mukhang marami pala silang tiningnan. At
Hey,
ito lang talaga yung
all
nakapaggawa ng damit niya.
Grabe,
Grabe.
22 inches. It's like literally a shirt size already. Like
Exactly,
literally.
yes,
right?
No?
I know. Yeah.
Grabe. Okay. You know what, Harvs and Kat, no, you both mentioned that you came from competing for the Philippines. At least Kat is from the cheerleading, and Harvey is in the rugby space, no.
Mm.
In terms of competitions, no, how does it differ from the competitions that you are doing now sa bodybuilding, 'di ba? Mas ano ba?
Oh,
I
good
guess
question.
sa rugby, 'di ba? Sabi nga ni Harvs, mas physical. Right now, I
Yeah.
think sa bodybuilding, at least from what we're watching, no, it's more of a showcase, no. How is it
Yeah.
different in terms of that intensity, the preparations and whatnot?
Yeah. You want to go first?
Oh, okay. I guess, like, kasi siguro I don't know if this is also for Harvey, but being in cheerleading then, it's a team sport. So may mga kasama ka, like, you can get energy from them, like someone's really cheering you on, and there's also a mental aspect of it na parang pagod na pagod ka na, but you still have to push through it. Like, hindi ka pwede mag-back out sa mga stunts, your gymnastics. But it's like just for a short while, and you get to train for it na in blocks as
Mm.
well. But when I moved to bodybuilding, it felt a little bit, I'm not sure if this is true for everyone, but this is from what I experienced. I experienced it like very solo ka, and your biggest enemy is not your others, but it's really yourself mentally. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
physically it is there, like pushing yourself through the sessions, but it's really mental, because you have to miss out on a lot of things like family gatherings, eating, and there will come a point when we call like a prep or preparation na um you're just so tired. Like, you just want to sleep. You're so hungry already. And all you want to do is sleep. But of course, like, you're still human. You need interaction. Kailangan mo pa rin makisama. And parang for me and Harvey believe na prep shouldn't be a reason na your work will fall or ma-affect even with your relationships. So
Yeah.
it's really like a huge mind battle talaga. And especially with food. Like, there will come a time na talagang hinahanap mo na talaga na parang, I didn't know for Harvey if this was true for him, but for me, it was like, especially being Filipino, I love sweets. So, hinahanap ko talaga
Yeah.
yung cake and mga burger. Like, it was like nothing for quite
Wala,
some
wala,
time.
wala bang sweets na acceptable if you're
I
preparing
guess
for your
siguro
competition?
depende yun sa katawan mo and with
Yeah.
your coach, because sometimes you will get what we call refeeds. So, it's either na,
Refeeds. Okay.
yes, refeeds.
Cheat
So, there's
cheat day, kumbaga, cheat day, no? Tama
I
ba
would
yun? Yeah.
suppose so. But it's more like calculated rather. Hindi lang yung, okay, basta kumain ka na lang kung anong gusto mo. It's still
Shit.
calculated. Yeah, so hindi ka lang pwede mag all out bigla. But I think
Grabe.
it's super worth it, really worth it in the end. If being a big if you really like stuck through with it and you know that you give 100% before you step on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, for my case, I mean, again, yeah, rugby, big team sport. You can definitely, especially for someone like me, who is highly extroverted. I gain energy from people immediately, and that's how it. Obviously, that's the reason why I played sport, right? You. That's the reason why you get motivation from them. And what I find actually for rugby, right? Okay, so one of the main reasons why I say that bodybuilding is actually one of the sport that is counterintuitive. Yeah, so I'll get to that later, but I understand because in a team sport, understand this wise. You have certain strong players. You have some players who are like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay, cool, and then you obviously have those like really low in skill, whatever it is. So anyway, they always say you're as strong as your weakest link. That's a team sport. But always understand is that no matter what in a team sport, there's so many factors that are in play, but the problem is that most people can also hide behind these
Mm.
strong players. Like you should be like, oh yeah,
Shit, oo nga.
I should be running it through, but like
Yeah.
but you know that your teammate right there is like a super highly skilled fit guy, and you're like, it's okay, John can handle it or Tom can handle it. I'm pretty sure every athlete has gone through that, especially in a team sport.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're able to hide, or rather,
It,
uh,
it's like LeBron and the Cavaliers, no? Back then in 2015 and 2016.
exactly,
Panay si
yeah.
LeBron lang.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So
Right.
so there you go. You got one superstar player, and everybody just relies on him. Not saying you're not going to do the work, but you're able to take the settle off. I always
Yeah.
say that take the settle off and go. Yeah. Okay. Someone can actually. Someone
Yeah.
will do it. Like you don't actually have to give like 110%. Now bodybuilding different because everything that you do matters. And not just everything that you do matters, it also is counterintuitive because bodybuilding is one of the only sports that I would say that you're meant to maximize performance at the most depleted state you are. Because if you think about rugby
So far.
games, if you think about
Mhm.
Olympic strength, where performance matters, like if you're an athlete, you play sports, whatever it is, you want
Sure.
to be in the most um, well primed position, and that means you're fed well, you
Yeah.
are you are rested well, basically.
Uh-huh.
That's why you hear people like Michael Phelps eating like 20,000 calories a day because he's meant to perform well. But
Uh-huh.
bodybuilding is different. You're supposed to be in the most depleted state because you're gonna present your most
Like
aesthetically pleasing body on stage, which means to say that your food is very
limited
limited, your rest
as
will be
well.
limited for
Limited.
sure
Sure.
because every time you go down in calories, your sleep is limited. You're in your most depleted state.
Mm.
So therefore, and then you're also still meant to perform well in the gym because obviously you need to hold on to the muscle, but at the same time you also have to present well on stage as well.
Mm.
And that's why it's counterintuitive, and that's why you're not allowed to basically hide behind weaknesses because everything is going to be exposed on
Mm.
show day. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like literally, no?
Yeah.
literally, yeah, exactly.
Grabe.
And it's just like really hard because like imagine you're gonna present to yourself not just among the judges but people and they will like pick you apart. It's like
Yeah.
it's very tough. So you have to like and have to have a good relationship with yourself
Yeah.
and with food before you really do bodybuilding, I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
My goodness, and I can imagine what it feels like if you're standing beside someone whose arm, for example, is bigger than yours, or legs are more well defined, or your calves niya mas malaki or what, no?
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
Grabe, stressful.
But like although like a lot of people would say like your bodybuilding is a very it's a solo journey and everything else, but I think for our case like we have amazing people around
Mm.
us, and I think that's what really that's what really makes the value in terms of
Yeah.
how we present. Although yeah, you still have to eat your meals, you still have to do your workout. No one's going to do your workout for you, no
Yeah.
one's going to eat your meals for you. But like that's the reason why like we're blessed with like people around us, our circle, and they are the ones that you actually find out
Mhm.
like who are your true friends, or who are your
Mm.
true people that are actually very are genuine in your
Yeah.
life,
Oo.
especially during a bodybuilding
Mm-hmm.
competition. Yeah.
True. Because like from my experience, like I have friends who really don't work out. They don't go to the hindi sila bodybuilders. But
Uh-oh.
during my prep, they really helped me a lot because I would go out with them, but they wouldn't even offer me like any food, or they
Oh,
would be actually
shit.
like
Yeah.
actually nilalayo nila yung mga fried stuff like
Counterintuitive
Grabe.
nga.
yeah, so para
Grabe,
mag-order
no?
sila na parang, "Kat, what can you eat?" Or rather, "What can I drink?" na lang. So, ayun, lahat sila
Mm.
imagine mo in front of you, everyone's eating burgers, pizza,
Yeah.
all the good stuff, ice cream, and here I am drinking water.
It's like Matt yung guest natin na vegan, where she mentioned nga as in her friends sort of grew to, get to know her na talaga. Wala na. They don't even try and they make it a point that to go
Oh.
to a restaurant na may gulay lang, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So at least sa inyo tubig, right? Tubig naman is very, available, right? Among
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
And like regarding the support system, no, parang I'm sure it doesn't hurt na your partner is also, a
Yeah,
bodybuilder in
super.
their own right.
It's a big, big help talaga. Parang I remember during prep, we would go grocery shopping and then
Uh-oh.
what's your meal now? May carbs ka ba today? Anong food mo? Chicken breast? Do I put salt? Wag? Okay, sige. And then parang, ayun na, parang naging normal lang siya. It was so natural for me and Harvey to do that. And we
Mm.
actually met each other while we were on competition prep.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Okay.
So there
Grabe.
you go.
That's nice.
Really test.
Matt, pag
Na-imagine ko yung dates nila, nakatubig lang sila.
Oo.
actually, nanonood kami ng movie, tapos dala-dala namin yung meal prep
Tubig.
namin. Kaya pinasok namin sa movie.
Yeah, we ate our chicken here. We ate our rice.
Rice.
Yeah.
I could imagine, Matt, pag nag-anniversary to, hindi mo pwede bigyan ng cake, no? Hindi mo pwede bigyan ng mga
Oo.
sweets and gifts, right? So,
Yeah, so I guess let's get into the career of like this fitness trainer. What do you define as siguro the epitome of a personal trainer? Like what is the ideal fitness trainer for you? Like what are the technical skills, soft skills that he or she should be adept in and they should possess? Ayun.
Okay, so we have this principle in our
Yeah.
company, which is basically two things, and that
Mhm.
actually will trickle on and provide that right foundation. So I'll start off with that. Two things that anyone who wants to aspire to be a personal trainer, you need these two things. If you don't have these two things, you can forget about it.
Mm.
Number one is basically keen to learn. So you
Yeah.
need to be humble enough to be keen and eager to learn. And number
Mhm.
two is basically the perseverance, or rather the determination and willingness to work hard.
Mm.
Now, those two things, if you don't have that, trust me, you're not going to last very long
Mm.
as a personal trainer. Because what I find is, like you mentioned, I think Matt, you mentioned about the ideal personal trainer and which
Yeah.
one should actually be. So for me, it's not so much about like trying to paint a golden picture of who this personal trainer is, or rather, what should a personal trainer
Mm.
be looking like. But I find it you should approach it as an intrinsic principle first before finding out what should ideal personal trainer be. And the reason why I say this is because the best personal trainers out there have already the willingness to work hard and basically the eagerness to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, starting from that point, the ideal personal trainer also is the person, or rather the personal trainer, who is able to adapt to every single client.
Mm-hmm.
Because trust me, we as humans, we love to be with someone that we can relate to.
yeah.
But guess
Yeah.
what? Clients don't come like that.
Yeah.
Clients come to you basically, hey, I am personality type B. So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna basically stick to your own and
Yeah.
think about like how you can actually be your own, or are you gonna
Mhm.
adapt and relate to that person so he or she can actually achieve their goals? And then number three is basically thinking about for me, and I really hold it through, is not just being adapt, is also because it's also the idea of that you need to understand that as a personal trainer, a lot of things are evolving in this world.
Mhm.
Different techniques are also evolving in this world. Different different scientific studies that have gone through
Mhm.
this world in relation to to not just machines in the gym, exercise programs. We're talking about nutrition wise as well. You need to have that understanding that things are evolving and never things are also, contextual.
Mm.
It depends is one of the most famous words that it looks,
Yeah.
because what works well for you might
May
not
not work.
necessarily work well for me,
Yes.
and I need to find that
Mm.
what actually
Yeah.
works well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do they differ in terms of their discipline? Ganun ba 'yun? Yung parang minsan pupunta lang sa gym, doon siya nag-workout. They don't follow through without a coach looking at them? Or do they differ in different aspects as well? How do you differ these clients?
Go ahead.
It's quite dependent on what the goal of the client is really. That's where you come in. Like
Mm,
as a personal trainer, you shouldn't just, yes, it's very good to have like good knowledge of like training,
yeah,
programming and all of that, but you must also have good soft skills, communication. You must know how to read people. And
yeah,
people have varying
really,
goals. What I find is that a lot of people who try to be trainers force goals on others. But the thing is, like, let's say I'm a bodybuilder and this girl comes to me and I train her like a bodybuilder, but she doesn't want to be a bodybuilder. She just wants to become
shit,
stronger. And it's
yeah,
such a different goal. Like,
yeah,
like let's say client A comes to me, never stepped at the gym before. Like, hey, I just want to know how to eat better. Like, I don't really want to gain muscle, but being stronger sounds good.
yeah,
So from then on, like I have to know already, okay, parang she just wants to start a healthy habit, healthy lifestyles. Like you really have to know how to read in between the lines. Because I find that a lot of people put so much force on making people bodybuilders when it's not
yeah,
their goal. It's
exactly.
very, very different.
Harvey and Kat, I guess it's just out of curiosity, no? You've mentioned it in like small snippets here and there, but I kind of want to give our audience like a snapshot of what it means to be a personal trainer or a bodybuilder, right? So like give us a small quick day-to-day look into, what constitutes your lifestyle, diba?
Oh
Okay.
wow. Like you mean like what we do like on a daily? Like what does a typical day look like?
Yeah.
Like how do you plan out your days? Like diet-wise, like exercise and all? Like how do you kind of yeah.
Well, for me, well, Harvey starts earlier. So sometimes, like, our schedule is really based on, like, the clients talaga.
Mm.
So if you have a
Grabe, no?
client that wants to train at 5 a.m., you
That's
gotta do it.
crazy.
You gotta
Really?
Yeah.
do it at 5
Oh
a.m.
my God. Grabe.
Tapos,
Kasi may office eh, no? May office or whatever. May work eh,
oh my
no?
goodness. So you have to be adaptable to that as well. Because sometimes there will be days wherein like back-to-back clients kang four. So let's say 7 to 9. Minsan, I think the longest day I've had was 8 until 4 p.m. straight. So walang
Yeah.
kain yun. Parang banyo break ka lang, inom ka lang na inom. You have to hydrate yourself and you must know how to pace yourself. And you have to plan your day out well. Like, okay, tinitignan ko na yung schedule ko the next day. Let's say, oh, okay, may pocket time ako ng 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I can train on this. Siguro kain muna ako before para after ng client ko, I can train already.
Mm.
Then kain na lang ako after before my next client. Then at the same time, I also have a few admin roles at the gym. So during some of the time that I have then that's also devoted to that, like answering emails, answering client questions, and all of that.
Mm,
So you really must be good in prioritizing your time and really less on the doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Kasi as a PT, you must or a personal trainer, you
Yeah.
also have to do your admin work. So updating your clients, kinakamusta sila,
right.
updating like even like simple things na parang hey, you really did such a great job today. It really means a lot for the clients and not just
Oo.
sige, see you next week.
So you really, day-to-day chat with them? Kasi nung nagkuha ko ng coach dati, parang wala eh. Sa Anytime Fitness na kami nag-uusap eh, no? But in your case, you really have to build that,
Yes,
constant
you have to
relationship
really
kahit wala sa
mm,
gym, no?
So I think I'll add that for Kat. So she
mm,
pretty much answers what we have. So our basically our schedules are dependent on the clients itself. So that's one. But then also for our cases, like for example, now I would say the reason why we do that is because we want to add our personal touch to the client
mm,
themselves. We see clients not just as clients, but we see them as basically people who are willing to give as much as possible
mm,
things that would allow us to help them achieve their goals. So I always say, with more information that we have,
Yeah.
and the more open data that we have from the clients itself, we're able to have information for action in order to lead us to a
Yeah.
direction, right?
Yep.
It's like literature. Woo. But anyway, but I always say that. So I always say the best trainer and client relationship is the one that you are able to relate to. And then it comes to the soft
Oh.
skills. But then because I'm able to relate to my client feels comfortable and therefore is able to share with me
Yeah.
more information. Now, with more information at hand, now I've got more weapons in my arsenal, so to speak, and then understand it like, okay, yeah, actually, every Saturday and Sunday you want to go out with your wife or your spouse, or you want to have like a barbecue with your kids. Great. How can I then factor your diet plan that you can follow and still enjoy that on the weekend with your kids and with your wife? So those are the few things and all these happen via personal connection,
Yes.
communication with your clients, making them feel comfortable, and making them, understand the trust between you and I, where we have the best interest at your, at our hearts. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is also for us, like I said, because our schedule is according to the client's timings and everything else, therefore we have on our onus to actually plan our schedules as well. So that would mean for both of us, obviously we're competitive bodybuilders, that would mean that it's our responsibility to fit in whenever where we can actually train. So that means nutrition also has to come in. So when we basically look at each other in the day and we go, all right, I have 4 back to back. So for me, and I'll look at her, I'll be like, okay, can I, is there any way I can help you with, like, in terms of like buying lunch for you? Did I cook something for you that, will make it much easier?
Or like, parang minsan like, parang non-verbal na parang, okay, nakita ko may back-to-back siya, so we'll buy each other coffee or tea, or in his case, pineapples.
I like pineapples. I like pineapples. Yeah.
Baka galing sa Pilipinas yung pineapples dyan,
Oh, yeah. That's
Yes,
what
di ba?
Yeah, they're from Philippines. I was like, yeah, we're good.
Amazing. Harvey and Kat, no, I guess I was just wondering, like, if you're a personal trainer, diba, how do you continue to upskill yourself, right? Is it similar to like maybe a professor, wherein you have to churn in as much knowledge, diba, every day? Maybe, you see a new technology, ChatGPT or AI, let me try to integrate that into my lesson, diba? How do you guys upskill, diba? To continue to grow your knowledge of what you will be imparting to your client later on.
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
for me, well, there are some courses which are readily available, but these are very theoretical. For me, for also like from basically, it's also finding a good mentor and also observing, not just like what people are doing on YouTube, but even like from my teammates on the floor. Like I watch what they do well. And I really listen to their language, and I said, "Oh, hey, that's actually pretty good. Like how this client, how he did this for his client, or I sometimes ask, let's say Harvey, na parang, hey, I saw you did this with your client. Why did you do that? But not like bashing them. It's more like, how did that certain modification help him or that client move better? Na
Yeah.
parang how does that translate like with the load and all of that? And I feel like it also makes me a better trainer because I get to always have what we call a beginner's mind, not to always just be open. Like
Galing.
because in our gym, that's what I also really really love about it. It's we're not just bodybuilders. There are some there who do CrossFit, some are power lifters, some are
Galing.
like really amazing and smart people. So I get to learn from different sports, and it's just amazing. Like really, I'm in awe of and so many of them because I'm just so new to personal training. So when I ask certain things, um, it's really good na they don't parang bakit di mo alam yan? Parang they're like, okay, sige, let's dive in. Na parang
Galing.
why did you choose this movement for this client? So it's really a good conversation to have. That's why like for me it's really it's being able to learn, and also you must know how to learn yourself, hindi lang puro courses
Tama.
kasi courses parang certificates lang yan eh,
Tama.
but the way that you can apply these is the where it counts the most, and how you can be good in being a personal trainer. Recently actually one of our head Ben like taught us like to be a good personal trainer you really must know yourself. Like let's say because Harvey, if you've ever seen Harvey train, he's very intense, and if
Oh.
so that's his style of coaching. And for me, hindi ako yung parang, yeah, let's go! Sapat! Parang hindi
Yeah.
ko hindi ko kaya. So parang for me, you really must know yourself as a personal trainer and how you can bring out that personality and make it your personal touch to your
Galing.
clients as well. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so true. So the more I actually learned this really on, because like I said, I didn't start off. I started off in the gym, yeah, and I have some base knowledge of what the gym is. But because I honestly, when I first started out, I wasn't a personal trainer to begin with. Like I know I love to train, but I didn't know how I
Mm.
would actually teach people like how to. Again, very similar to Cat, because I came from a teaching background. I was supposed so I don't know. I was very similar to you, Lance. I know you were lecturing in Ateneo. I did the same
Yeah.
thing for NUS as well. So I was an
Oh, yeah.
assistant, yeah, assisting lecturing there. I was, believe it or not, I was in philosophy and history. That was my degree.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my
So
god.
I figured that out. Yeah, yeah. And then obviously before that, I was like tutoring as well. I taught in a secondary school or like a high school in the equivalent in Singapore before. Many years, like over 10 years before I eventually made, and I even had like a job in corporate as well. I was
Mm.
doing tech sales because that was my interest, right? I was doing tech sales for one of the biggest MNCs, Salesforce. I mean, some of the people
Yeah.
would know that.
SF.
But yeah, so exactly. So I did all of that before I finally understood like, okay, this is the job that
Yeah.
I am, you know, really found my passion. And again, I've always loved teaching, but like I didn't really found that out in the other careers. But I had to do all of that to find out
Uh,
that okay, this is the one that I want. I think you talk about like how can personal trainers out there basically upskill. So yeah, courses and all that you can basically upskill. Again, having a great circle of information, whether
Yeah.
it be friends or information that you can actually derive from that, also is very helpful. The other thing is also, I think, for my case, especially in my end, now that run through some of the some of the foundational years, personal trainers who actually find themselves now managing people. So for my case, obviously, it's like now I'm managing not just the teammates that I have at work, but there's also the gym, the operations of the gym. Understanding like how can we actually make the client experience a little bit better
Yeah.
instead of just thinking on our end like how can I make my job easier. No, it's not about that.
Yeah.
Clients do come in. How can we make their experience better? Customers experience. That's one thing that I'm looking at now. Thinking
Galing.
about that, thinking about like how can we still provide the service that we stand
Yeah.
for, but at the same time thinking two steps ahead. Like okay, what's going to happen like in terms of like marketing material. What we'd actually work on based on season. So those are the few things like the
Yeah.
business aspect of running a gym is where some personal trainers would eventually
mm,
find themselves into. And then the other thing is also mentoring. you
mm,
know you obviously have built experience in that. Now you're mentoring other personal trainers as well. So this is something that we at Unreal actually have. So we have this thing called the Unreal Academy, where we actually teach
Galing.
other trainers, not just from
Yeah.
mm.
our gym, but other people around
Yeah.
the world. This is something that we have worked on as well. So yeah, there you go.
That's great. May ganun din palang aspect, no? I mean, sometimes I wonder, no? Tingin mo ba kunwari kapag personal trainer ka, you gotta document the lives of your client in their journeys, di ba? Because that might make their experience, di ba, all the more worth it. Kapag
There you
nababaliw,
go.
shit, bro, that's me before. Di ba? And that's
Exactly.
me now, di ba? Parang that, I think, is also customer experience, right? That
Mm,
aspect to it, no? Sige, Harvey and Kat, no, I want to ask about the economic side of things, naman, right? Harv,
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned you worked for Salesforce, right? And
Yeah.
Kat, I also heard that you taught before, diba? And alam sa pagkarinig ko, I don't know, no? Sa Singapore, pag teachers ka, premium lagi yung bayad dyan, no? Not in
Yeah.
the Philippines, not in the Philippines, but here, at least in Singapore, right? You gotta have that qualifications, right? Now, for those that are aspiring to become personal trainers, would you suggest that they go all in, no? Or, part time muna, try it out, then let's see from there.
mm. That's
Okay.
quite tough.
Yeah, because you went all in.
Because I went all in.
I was like
He
a
was
part-time
part-time.
first. Yeah, so she can answer the all in
All in,
first. Yeah.
all in and part time. Wow, perfect. We have
Yeah.
both worlds here.
Well, yeah.
Mhm. Wait, so I go first. So with being all in, basically it was such a big jump because like being a foreigner, we have like may mga pass, and I couldn't moonlight, hindi pwedeng part-time. It's either you're this or you're that. So
Oh.
parang ako,
Mm.
that's why it's like I was really, really nervous because it's like this was such a big career jump for me. Especially I did it when I was 26. And I was quite scared already because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. Like I've been teaching for so long. Tapos parang ako, do I really want to do this like right now? Tapos yun, I did it. Parang I went through a beasting, what we call the beasting. Oh my god. So basically to get into Unreal, you have to what we have like this initiation
No,
wherein
fuck,
you have,
really?
yeah,
Wow.
it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do
Yeah.
my entire life. I think it was like almost 2 hours.
Almost 2 hours. And then, yeah.
So basically, just like to give the audience also what a beasting is. Beasting is like an initiation to get into Unreal, and it just wants to. It's a way for the management to know how badly you want it,
Oh my
and
god.
so we have to go through a series of exercises. Anyway, so I went all in, and I said, you know what, it's now or never. Because also backstory, before I jumped into Unreal, I was supposed to actually go to the US to study again, masters in education.
Wow.
So parang ayun, nakapasa na ako at lahat, and parang ako, deep down, I'm just like, bakit di ako masaya? Parang I feel like this is not what I want. Parang gusto ko pa rin i-give a go yung personal training. Kasi at that time, parang I was helping others na rin, and parang ako, parang it's not that hindi na fulfilling yung teaching kids, but I found my purpose more in being at the gym kasi I didn't mind being there the whole day, but not necessarily working out the whole day. But parang talagang hahanapin ko talaga na hangga't sa makuha nung tao yung movement and make them understand na parang bakit mas nararamdaman ko this way rather than this way. Parang I really love it na nakikita ko na nagle-light up yung nagsispark sila na parang, oo nga no, parang okay, gets. Tapos after that, sabi ko, sige, gagawin ko na to. So I resigned and I'm just like, this is it. This is it. Tapos parang ako in my head, well, if it doesn't work out, then I can always go back. Parang yun
Yeah.
na lang in my mind na
Mhm.
pag hindi talaga, at least I went in knowing na at least I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so far, talagang I never looked back. And surprisingly, I used to teach kids, right? I train the parents na this time.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Really?
Full
Grabe.
circle.
Full
So they found
circle, you
me.
know? Full
Full
circle.
circle talaga.
Full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and look at you. I think you've sustained a life, diba? Out of this personal training job, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's a great decision that you made. Sige, Harvs, ikaw naman. You know, you took up the more let's just say a more conservative route, no? Na part-time muna, diba? Or I'm not sure kung conservative siya or talagang busy ka sa ibang ginagawa mo before, no? So
Yeah.
what made you, you know, go all in this time?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, thank you so much. So on my case, because obviously, like I said, I started out not like as a like person that studied exercise science or like biomechanics for university. And like I, I basically did history and business at the same time. So siempre naman like for my case, here in Singapore, because here in Singapore, for my case, like I came from a family that was also not like upper middle class or anything like that. Like I had a university loan. That I had to take through. So I went through, and again, like I said, when I graduated from university, like being a personal trainer was probably one of my like not even in my head as a choice. Like I love the gym and everything else. So
Yeah.
I started trying out because I was also trying to find purpose and meaning in what my career would be like. And so therefore I was like, oh yeah, I actually love like teaching. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, like let me try to teach kids of all ages to find out which one. So I taught kids as young as 3, 4 years old. And then I was like, okay, it's not too bad. Like I simply I love that. But like then I went on to like primary school. I went on to like secondary school, and then I said like, okay, it's something's still missing right there. Like I understood and like the admin stuff and everything else. Like I was thinking to myself like, can I do this for the next 10 years of my life? And if I didn't make the decision, right? If I could look at it and I go, well, I'm not happy now, The problem is I know that in 5 years' time, not only am I not going to be happy, I'm also going to be older. So in my case, I was like, yeah, I need to make sure that I make this decision right. So that's one. And then that's when I went to teach in the university as well. So I was like, okay, maybe this is the shot, right? And then obviously, syempre naman in university, like I love the teaching part, but the research part, I was like, I'm not going to sit in the office and do 12 hours of research. That's
Sayang
not
muscles
me.
ko, sayang muscles ko. Kung
Yes,
naupo
I
lang ako.
need to get out. Like I need to
Oh,
move.
liliit ka.
Grabe, yeah. And then I realized, okay, so maybe the teaching aspect is something that I enjoy, but I'm not really enjoying the research part. So, and then again, like I said, I love talking to people. I love being an extroverted guy, gains energy from people. And I was like, okay, I'm going to dabble in sales. So two things I want to marry through, like, sales and technology. So I was like, that's why I worked in a corporate setting. But
Yeah.
sempre naman in a sales setting, like, to be fair, like Salesforce was one of the best companies I worked for. Shout out to Hannah Vargas. She was my manager
Wow.
during the time. Yeah, and she was actually the person that gave me the confidence to actually jump ship. So
Ooh.
therefore, so
Mm.
at that point in time as well, like I was saying, like, yeah, I love talking to people, I love making a sale, but I wasn't fulfilled because at the same time, if you're in a sales cycle, you understand that your sales cycle basically restarts to zero, even no matter how high your target was that you
Mm.
managed
That's
to achieve.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, respect to, not saying that sales or whatever it is, but respect to people that have done it before
Mm.
over and over again. So my case is like, I need to find something that's actually have that intrinsic purpose, that extrinsic purpose that establishes the meaning as well. So when I did personal training, it was like at the side. Again, shout out to the management at Unreal, Ben, Min, Gareth. They took a chance at this guy that basically came not from a background of like as a physical trainer, but like, and then from there I understood like, oh, there's so many aspects of it because when
Mm.
I started training a client, it's like it's not just the interaction within that 1 hour in a gym, is
Mm-hmm.
understanding their whole life. Like I
Mm.
understood like oh, this person is actually struggling at work. He came to me basically like feeling everyone that comes to the gym basically wants to better themselves,
Yeah.
whether or not it's being
Totoo.
consistent in the gym. Whether or not
Okay.
it's being consistent in the gym or like just getting a workout in. Everyone comes there to better themselves. So therefore, I understood that hey, I can actually change lives and actually make an impact, a lasting impact on someone,
Mm.
and not only that person, the person's family as well, the person's circle as
Yeah.
well. Because if I change the dad, for example, I've got comments from my clients like, look, I am basically training clients that are easily 30 years older than me. These guys are all like, C-level suites. We talk about like basically head of sales, head of like
Mm.
operations of
Yeah.
companies. And they're even like their dads. In fact, they have
Mm.
kids and all that. And I'm like, this guy, like maybe 27, 28 years old, basically telling them what to do or like, even bettering themselves. Like, look, I know you want to be a better dad. Like, look at, sometimes like even the phrases that I say in the gym is like, your daughter's watching you. Just imagine your daughter's watching you. Can you do one more?
Intense nga to, ha. Intense
Like,
nga,
like
no?
they love that. Some of my classes, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I want to be a better dad. And like sometimes the things that they tell me, like, look, hey Harvey, like, since the fact that I have being consistent in the gym and all that, like I basically went to the grocery and made better choices for not for myself, but also for my family. Now my daughter understands that I have to go to the gym, and like these things are like you can't. How can you put like a value to it? Like there's no way that you can put it. It's basically lasting impact on this guy forever, and not
Mm.
just the impact on this guy's life, but it's also the circle that. And that's when I knew at that point in time where I was like, you know what? In order for me to actually focus on something that I can make a lasting impact on my end, I need to go all in.
Mm.
And that's when I decided to resign and decided to basically just focus on this aspect of personal
Mm.
training. Yeah.
Galing. And again, you've sustained yourself, diba? You've sustained
Yo.
yourself, diba? You're here right now, diba? Yeah, I'm happy for you guys. Mukhang nahanap nyo na yung ikigai nyo, no? Mukhang nahanap
Oh
nyo na yung
yeah.
purpose nyo talaga, right? On
Mm.
this life. Sige, how about for those naman that, want to become personal trainers, whether be it in Singapore, be it in the Philippines, or whatever setting, no? How do
Yeah.
they start? Do you guys have any people that you would recommend to follow? no? Or earlier you mentioned courses, no? Saan sila pwede magsimula? Is this a LinkedIn thing course as well? Or I don't know, right? Where can they find this? YouTube?
For Philippines, I think okay. So again, it depends on the country that you're being
Mm.
based
Yeah.
at, because certain countries have different regulations. Here in Singapore,
Mm.
naman, you have to be
May regulations din.
accredited,
Yeah.
accredited as a personal trainer. So there is a course that you actually go. Some example. There's so many examples you can just look in on the website, because the reason for that is because of insurance. Because obviously you're training someone physically, the gym has to be insured.
Mm.
You yourself has to be protected by insurance as well because of health. I mean, simple naman dito sa Singapore. That's
Mm.
one thing. In Philippines, if I am not mistaken, you have to be educated at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I would actually say in my case, and I believe this to be very true, if someone wants to actually start off as a personal trainer, I would say get educated first. You can never
Mhm.
start something that um, you would actually want to do without the relevant education, because again, you're working with people here, you're working with people's
Mm.
lives here.
Yes.
You don't want to screw them up,
Parang
because that
doctor
could
nga no? Medyo parang
Oh,
doctor.
yeah, it
Isang,
is.
isang
it
mali
Yeah,
mo lang. Isang mali mo lang. Patay,
there you
patay
go.
na yung, di ba? Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So therefore, I believe that you have to be educated in the right sense and build the right foundation
Mm.
from there.
Yeah.
Now, again, where do you gain experience? Again, then from there, once you're accredited, where you set foot also matters. So for me, I think in Singapore at least, finding the right gym
Gym.
that would
Yeah.
actually build your foundation and
Got
actually
it.
give you the
Got it.
experience as well is also something. So one of the things that as a personal trainer you can actually take a look at is that a company that actually cares about you is a company that actually wants to invest in you, and whether or not it means invest in your education to upskill is also another
Yeah.
question. So because then again, a lot of people go into personal training because they heard about like the amount of money they can make, because it's commission based, right? It's you're basically paid most of the time. It's basically paid according to how much you work. So then again, if you're attracted to that, are you gonna last for the next 10 years? If you're just motivated by money, yeah, maybe yes, maybe not. But there you go. You have to find yourself your true purpose, right?
Yeah.
But then again, if you look at it from a company's point of view, if a company is readily always trying to upskill you as a trainer, and therefore you know that company is actually caring about you. So that's one thing. Again, people to follow. I would actually stress a lot. Again, you have to. I would say this as a Instagram fitfluencers out there, the people who spread news. I think follow the people that are genuine. When I say genuine, I'm talking about they have the right relevant education.
Mm.
Again, it doesn't have to be bachelor's degree
Degree.
or like master's or like you have to be an expert. Again, we
Yeah.
have experts who are also sprouting nonsense in Instagram. We know who they are. But then again, find out the people who are actually backing themselves up with evidence.
Yeah.
I find the best people are the ones that have relevant education, but are also leading by example.
Mm.
We have a lot of educators out there, but you see them like, for example, would you get financial advice from a guy who's broke? No,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
you'll be like,
No.
hey, wait a minute. What are you doing? Like, exactly.
Mm.
The same reason why I wouldn't be getting advice from someone who is basically, not physically fit, or basically not even doing the exercises or following through. He or she may have done it before, way before, and has retired. That depends. But then again, I follow people that have actually walked the talk
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
know their stuff, and then you are
Yeah.
backed by education. That's all the people that you want to follow through.
Yes.
Again, if you look at the Instagram profile, if 90% of their posts are about themselves, and it's about, hey, use this particular product, use my code, and you
This
can
is
get
the
it.
best
Yeah, this is
product.
the best.
10% off.
Familiar yan. Yeah.
Familiar nga.
Maybe, right?
Maybe,
Highly likely
yeah.
they're not the right person to follow through. If
Yeah.
you're looking at someone who does not highlight their own success, but actually keeps on highlighting about the results that they have achieved with other people, then yeah, that person is someone or other on the right track. Again, like I said, putting out evidence right there. Again, being open to changes in education right there are the people that you would want to follow.
Yeah. I mean, I think just to add to that, with what Harv says, it's actually a good point. Like,
Mm.
I know that the fitness industry is absolutely booming right now. Like fitfluencers, it's really saturated on Instagram. So my advice is like, especially for women, or even guys, like just because someone is famous doesn't necessarily mean that they're credible, or just because they've bagged a lot of bodybuilding medals
Yeah.
doesn't make them necessarily a good personal trainer or coach,
Mhm.
because they may know how to train themselves and follow a plan, but it's really different when it's a different person na talaga that you're training, one who hasn't trained at all, one who doesn't know anything. You must really, really do your research and not just, hey, sign up ako with Harvey. He's really famous. He's big arms. I'll get big arms too. It's really not a one size fits all. And that's what I
Yeah.
find na parang I like, speaking from experience, I've had women come to me and say, I want to look like this girl. So they come to me, they've been eating the same diet, the same program. But the thing is, like, no matter what you do, what people forget is like you have different bodies talaga. So even
Exactly.
if you eat the same things, you do the same workout, you will still not look the same no matter
Yeah.
what. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you,
Lance, parang
guys.
may naalala kong famous ab workout during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Baka
Hindi nagawa. Wala, hindi na-apply
Six
sa
pack,
akin eh.
shortcuts. There we go.
Sorry, I just wanna like plug it in before we move to our last part. No, in terms of technologies that you would recommend, I remember I listened to Jason Tatum before, this
Yeah.
NBA player, and he mentioned, oh, you know what? I believe in Fitbit. No, when I'm
Mm,
working out, and when I'm doing
yeah,
exercises, kayo ba as
yeah.
personal trainers, any apps or any technologies that you really been with it and you trust its results and how it helps your routine. Anything?
Okay. Like, well, for some apps, it will really depend. So something, because I like to track my food, then, and that's what something that I also teach
Sa
my clients. So
diet
some
talaga. Yeah,
the
sa
diet.
diet.
So there's MyFitnessPal and there's Chronometer. I find that those two are the most credible ones
Got
to
it.
use based on their data. But the thing is, like, just a disclaimer, not everything there is accurate. So you must really look na parang,
Yeah.
teka, parang mali yata yung calories nito. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
ingat lang doon. And then I find that also being a personal trainer, I also use some apps then to help my clients with their workouts. So some you still use Excel. Ako I
Wow.
like using, yeah. So ako I like using True Coach kasi parang it helps me keep accountable of my clients. Like I put their program there, and then because I have also independent clients who see me once or twice a week, but para nakikita ko na okay, ginawa nila to. And it's also good for me because I'm
Galing.
able to track it. Hindi
Yeah.
lang yung basta-basta, ano kayang gagawin natin today, no? Like you must really
Galing.
be a flow there and a purpose as well. Yeah, how
Parang
about you?
data
Yeah.
analyst pala kayo,
So
ah. Data analyst
Yeah.
we
din, ah.
are, we are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Medyo,
So I
medyo.
think very earlier on, I said about like how the more data that we have, we're able to actually it gives us more action, more information for action.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's what we talked about. So for me, for example, yeah, this is a Fitbit. I use that. I recommend that to in fact, all of my clients who are looking at fat loss, especially
Mm.
because it basically
Yeah.
tracks your activity and makes you more aware of how active you are as a person. So I remember during the pandemic, a lot of people are saying like, look, Harvey, I ate the same stuff, I even worked out here and there, but like I actually gained weight during the pandemic. And I'm like, okay, but what's your step count? And then they were like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't track. And then I say, okay, go and track. And then because now we obviously have the options of working from home and also going to the office, right? And 99% of the, in fact, actually all the clients, I can safely say, realize that, hey, if I'm working from home,
Mm.
my daily step count is 500.
Fun.
And then when I'm
So
going to the office, it's
yeah.
7,000. That
Yeah.
leaves that discrepancy.
Nakaka-guilty.
Uh,
Nakaka-guilty.
So I'm saying, but that means that even if you're eating the same amount of calories and everything else, that gap and that
mm.
discrepancy would actually make that your
Exactly.
whole activity as a whole change. So that's one. So that's why I would recommend that as a way that you can actually adjudicate your activity level, because therefore from that case, with information that I have, I can then now understand how you are as a person. I can
Mm.
change the diet, I can curate the diet, and I also can curate your program, exercise
Mm-hmm.
program for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is also, for example, for I think a lot of people are also interested in about um, technology in terms of tracking your body fat
Yeah.
percentage, your metabolic rate, your posture. So there is a technology right now that is called the Fit 3D scan, which we have one in the gym. It basically measures. It's I would say it's one of the like the
Mm.
gold standard in terms of measuring your body fat and
Yeah.
everything. So it's called Fit 3D. Basically, what it does, it measures your not just your body fat percentage, it measures your posture as
Sure.
well. So whether or not your shoulders are aligned,
Fine.
that's actually something that they also measure the circumferences of your limbs, your hips, your trunk, your legs, your
Yeah.
calf as well. So you can actually see people who have gone through from operations and everything else, whether or not one muscle size is atrophied.
Yeah.
It gives you
Yeah.
all that information. Whether you're putting more
Galing.
pressure on your upper left foot as compared to your right, it measures all of that.
Mm.
So as detailed as it can be,
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I would also recommend
Mm.
to
Yeah.
clients as well. If you can have some form of tracking
Impression. Yeah.
Yeah.
your progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Parang may
Not just for
self-regulation.
clients.
Yeah.
Mhm. Not just for clients, but also for coaches as well or personal trainers. Because
Yeah.
like I'm a really well, me and Harvs, we're a big believer of the phrase na what gets measured gets managed. Because it's really data.
Totoo.
Like what
Totoo
you
yan.
Yeah.
have,
Totoo yan.
talagang you really have to see it that way. Talaga you have to look at the bigger picture and not just na parang, ba't kaya? Ano man nangyari? And it's not just your steps. You have to like see then yung sleep and all of that. It really like compounds. So if you cannot track, you really don't know what to fix.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi ka aware
Galing.
na parang, bakit nga ba? Na parang, kumakain naman ako ng maayos, like, nagtitraining naman ako once in a while, pero what's missing? So it gives you like that answer to your why, and it gives you a solution as well.
Ganda. Awesome. Thank you guys for that. Maka-download na nga ng app na yan, no? So that I can
Yeah.
so that I can regulate myself, right? Okay. Kat, Harvs, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us today in this episode. Just to close, would you want to like talk about anything what you're doing, right? Or what you're excited about in the next few days, right? So that you could plug it as well. And where our audience can follow you in case they want some fitspirations that are legit, right? That are legit without those bias, di ba? Anything to plug? Anything to plug?
Yeah. We obviously at the gym Unreal, and we basically manage two gyms here in Singapore. We have Brick House. So if any one of you out there are in Singapore, you can access Brick House. It's a paper entry. We do like a membership model. Anyone can go through. Enjoy the gym. We have lots of machines.
Yeah.
Train hard, train safe. That's one. The other thing is also so Unreal PT Singapore. That's also the gym that we're mostly main at because that's where we both work at. Yeah, so that's a gym where it's a bit more personalized. There's also functional fitness with Elevate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so great people,
Yes.
great mindset. I'm very confident to say that we are definitely the best in Singapore in terms of like adapting to many different any goals that you
Mm.
want to have. So definitely like the people right here are just amazing that we have.
Mm.
Like really blessed to be working with. Instagram account. My Instagram account is Harvey Mercado, Harvs_Mercado. And then obviously Kat is
Oh, my Instagram handle is Kating, Kating, Enriquez. So that's my Filipino nickname.
so
Aww.
yeah, there you go, right? So yeah, if any of the audience are in Singapore, feel free to reach out. And
Yeah.
if you want to work out, feel free. We're more than happy to welcome you guys here. If any of you guys are in Singapore, let us know.
Of course. Dadaan kami ni
Cool.
Matt. Yeah, dadaan kami ni Matt, right? I mean, thanks guys for joining us in the show Project Offbeat. What a great career that you have. What a great life you have. No. So, see you as well in the Philippines kung pupunta ulit kayo, right? If you have a wedding, magpapa-alter na kami ng damit para kay Harvs, right? Few days before, right? Before you even arrive Philippines. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you guys so much and have a
Thank
great
you,
night.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so
awesome.
much. Yeah, sorry guys, before we leave, picture naman tayo, no? Picture naman tayo.
Sure.
Sige.
One lang.
What?
Matt.
Do you want to flex?
I mean, wala
Ang liit oh.
Oy, ano ya? Matt, i-edit mo to ha. I-edit mo to, Matt ha. I-edit mo to.
I-edit namin tapos
Alright. Matt,
Buti
can you
na
take it?
naka-blur yung ano namin.
Oh.
Ay, sige.
Alright. Take it.
Hindi, naka-record naman to sa, just
sige.
3, 2, 1. Ay, go rin. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Tangina. Ang
Grabe.
liit ng sa atin.
Grabe.
So, El Crabo talaga. Grabe. That's crazy. That's crazy. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us kahit medyo gabi na.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
God
bless.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right.